Hello, Queens. I'm here with my client. I'm so excited to be talking to you. And today we're going to be talking specifically why a queen doesn't need to beg a masculine man to stay or even to commit with her. And I have a great transformation client here wants to share you her personal story and her journey through the process of working with me. And I really hope that you guys get inspired to get the creating lasting love that you really deserve and find your masculine man or your king, actually, who is balanced, who understand his masculine and his feminine, so that you guys both are two whole people to can create lasting love. So that's why we're here today. I'm so excited for you to join us. And definitely, if you are new to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe and share and like this video, because it means so much to the world, to me, to do that. If you're just coming back and you are my subscriber, thank you so much. I think this is such a valuable story that I really want to share with you guys. So I really hope you guys take this opportunity to listen in. And if you guys have any questions, please leave a comment down below, and we're gonna get started. Okay. How much of her life changing from being in the masculine role with a masculine job as well, and finding her love of her life, and what worked and what didn't work in her relationship, and the reason why it was so successful working with me. So I want to give everybody the opportunity here to listen to her story, because you're not alone. Many women out there are struggling with the same issue. The only difference is it's getting that support. So, and she reached out to me in a very hurtful situation where she's really struggled and couldn't find the answer. But today I have her, and she's able to show you guys about her experience of just having a balance, masculine and feminine qualities, and how you do that in a relationship.
So just for your listeners, like, I first met Cindy at one of her workshops, which was really eye-opening, and talking about like masculine, feminine, like just introducing concepts that I just did not know very much about. And I kept it in mind, and then I was like, I had a long-term relationship then. We've been together for, I think, about 2 years at that point, and I was just like, oh no, everything's fine, we're good, and not really reading into it too much. And then inevitably we had a breakup, and I was really upset. It was really sudden, and I was totally blindsided, thought everything was going okay, and reached out to Cindy. I shot her an email, and I was like, can we talk? I just had this big breakup, like my world has been shaken. And so we connected and started doing some session work together. And then, as we were going through, what had happened with the relationship, like, what I really liked about Cindy is that she wasn't like, let's get you back together right away and all these things. She was really looking at what I wanted to do in my life and what was best for me. I really love the combination of using the Vedic astrology as well. She really focuses it on you as the client. And, she really has a good understanding that, like, when you are your best self, then that is the time that, like, a relationship can be really successful. And it's really good at coaching and just helping me through this really huge life change, because the person was moving out. Like, we made all these plans together, and then we suddenly just didn't have any contact. And I was going through a time where I was dealing with some illness and injuries at the same time, and so it was a big shakeup, and Cindy was there, and it was really helpful. And like, as I started reflecting, like, one of the good things about Cindy is that she makes you do all of these exercises and self-reflection work that's the hard stuff that you wouldn't do otherwise. Like, she really pushes you to look within. And I realized I was mothering. As much as, like, everyone likes to think that they're not mothering, you end up mothering men sometimes. And I found that, like, with my relationship before, I was doing this guy's laundry, and I was paying for things, and always having to organize what we were doing. And it just, you kind of get stuck in this norm and you think, okay, well, this is what it's like. I'm, have this son boyfriend that I'm taking care of all the time. And, when they give back even just a little bit, you feel like your relationship is really good. And it's not until you're out of it that you realize, oh, okay, like I have these needs as a woman, and to feel like I'm being cared for and that someone cares about how I feel and I'm not always worrying about what they feel like. And so Cindy really helped me to realize that. And so we did quite a bit of work on myself actually, and chose, I think initially I probably did want to get back into that previous relationship because I didn't know anything different. And then once I realized just like that I wasn't getting, what I really needed out of it, then I just suddenly just, you don't miss that person anymore. They're just gone. And it's such a weird transition where you're like, oh, I can't believe I used to love this person who's kind of an asshole. Sorry, I don't know if you need to blot that out. Um, but she helped me to become my best self. And through that, a few months later, I did end up meeting a really great love, like really great guy, totally different, because I feel like how I had changed, it attracted a different kind of person, and it was more in that kind of balanced relationship where there's enough give and take on both sides so that you don't feel like you're giving so much of yourself and not getting anything in return. It also helped me to find my feminine, because I do have a very kind of traditionally masculine job where I'm in charge of a lot of things and I'm helping a lot of people. And when I'm coming back, I'm not getting the same kinds of attention. And so finding somebody that's very good at that and is doing that masculine role of like taking care of your feelings and making sure that like the mechanics are taken care of and things like that, like I really really enjoy that, even though it's something that I probably could do. And so that allows me to be more in touch with like how I'm feeling in the relationship, and just really delving into that.
Wow, that's an amazing journey that you had right there. Just going from a masculine, job and coming home and trying to turn on your feminine quality. What was your most masculine thing that you did for a man that was a repeating pattern?
Masculine qualities. In 2018, you don't really even think of these things as being masculine because we're so used to taking care of ourselves as women and being independent and not needing help with anything. But sometimes, taking charge of things gets really tiring, and it also becomes automatic where you're like, okay, well, this person's indecisive and they don't know what they want. So I'll just choose what we're eating. I'll choose where we're going. I'll tell you what to wear before we go out. Things like that. And so I caught myself just falling into mother mode, which you don't really realize you're doing because you think, this is my partner, you're taking care of them. Keep, this person doesn't have, cash for something and you do, and you're like, okay, here, you can just have it, and, just giving things away.
Right. And how did that made you feel like when you were in the masculine role and you recognize that, and then all of a sudden the guys start giving? Can you kind of tell me that experience, that feeling? Does that create, what does that creates for you?
Well, I think there's that moment where you're realizing, oh, okay, this isn't right. And that, sometimes that having to decide everything like that rule is not as comfortable. Once you have this lens of being like, oh, okay, maybe this other, the partner should be doing this, and then I could feel a little bit more secure in what we're doing. And so once that switch, it takes some time to get used to, especially if you're used to always taking charge and getting everything done yourself. You have to really learn to be a little bit more passive, I guess, or maybe receptive is a better word. You have to be a little more receptive to having someone else, come up with like date ideas and things like that, and letting the partner take the lead. And that's really hard, like learning to have somebody else lead and even just co-create what you're doing instead of you doing everything yourself. And once you get that balance, like it's something you need to monitor. If it's like your default you need to take yeah, a lot of people have it on default, and so you can start working on these roles and then just fall right back into your old pattern. And like I definitely catch myself doing it even now, like a few years later. So it's something you're constantly trying to grow and to learn about yourself and see, okay, does this work for me? Do I need to be more this masculine role and find someone who's a bit more feminine, or do I want this other change in relationship?
Right. Did you feel any like shame or anger or guilt when a man gives to you and take cares of you when you first, start learning about switching the role, having that balanced role?
It definitely felt weird.
Tell me
And
about that.
and things also take a little longer, because if you're used to being really efficient and getting stuff done and everything right away, like you're waiting for someone to kind of figure out that they're taking the lead. I think when I had tried it in that previous relationship just to test it, it didn't work because the person was so used to being in that like feminine role that there's no way they're going to take the lead and be masculine. And so you just kind of feel like you're failing. But I feel like in this new one, it works really nicely. But like it does get weird. Like sometimes you're just like, oh, this person's doing something for me. I didn't even ask. This is really nice. But like, do I owe them something now? Like, what is this like? And, just, receiving and that idea that like this person is doing this to make you feel happy. And then that's okay. And you don't always have to be even with everything.
No, that's a really good point. It's all about being grateful, right? I
Mhm.
remember the first time I made you do this exercise is all about being grateful for the things that is happening, right? And then,
Every night. Yep.
yeah, and it's so important. I think a lot of us doesn't or pause to do something like that. I want to talk about your current relationship and how that was different from all your other relationship, your lifestyle right now, where you were before,
Hmm.
what's happening, even with the situation when you are having a little bit of a challenging time period in your life. How did he kind of step up the role, asking, or even energetically, he does ask what you need, what kind of things, and how that dynamic of that relationship is totally different than all your past relationship right now.
Ooh, big question. It is really different, mostly because, the trust is there, which is something a lot of people take for granted. And I think that like having that foundation and, like my partner and I were friends before we were dating. And so we had that time to like get to know each other and we are best friends. Just knowing that you can rely on somebody and that they're not going to let you down. Because I grew up with people around me that, traditionally like your family and like your close friends, you're supposed to be able to rely on them. And, I really kind of grew up in the pattern of me being a caregiver for everyone around me. And so whenever I was reaching out and needing help with something, and I'd always wait till it was a complete crisis as well. So I'd wait till I was like in the hospital before I was like, okay, I need to take a break, and like things
Mm,
aren't going very well. I need some support. People weren't able to show up, and so I definitely had that fear, especially because of other relationships that had ended when like I had suddenly been kind of thrown into a life circumstance where I needed more support. Relationships I was in would end because it's like, oh, well, like Mary's not giving me time right now and she's always doing this. And then for me, I'm like, Mary, like you should just like take a Tylenol and then go help this guy because he really needs you, even though
mm-hmm.
you're not feeling well. And like, it's stupid, but like a lot of people do it because you're so used to just being this caregiver and being there for people, then your identity forms around this. And so now in this shift where I'm not needing to be a caregiver, I feel like there's things that I'm doing, like we cohabitate, and I usually work from home and he works from an office, and so I kind of take care of the house, but in a way that's more like me giving it back. It's very different from you being expected to kind of pick up after somebody and to take care of somebody in that way where if the person's ungrateful. And I feel like in this situation it works really really nicely. But it is really different, and it took some time to get used to it, because you just catch yourself feeling like, okay, well, people only will love me if I'm doing everything for them, and then realizing that that's not the norm, and kind of breaking free from that pattern. And you can't always do this on your own. Like, even if you have the insight to see, okay, I'm doing these things and they're not working the way that I want, you still do need someone like Cindy to be looking after you and coaching and just prompting you to do this exploration and giving advice, because like, it's the real world stuff where you're like, okay, you're starting to have a bit of a problem, you find yourself going back, or you're arguing with somebody, and then you're like, what do I do? You call Cindy and she works it out. And she's very, very good at it, and just kind of like good at telling you like it is. And I think Cindy, how we've been working together for a couple of years now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
you've helped me through some really amazing stuff. And I feel like even stuff that is your relationships with other people, like your interpersonal relationships, and it's not just your, romantic partner. It's like if you're having issues with other areas in your life, she's also really, really good at that.
Yeah, because it all affects in relationship. It's all starts with you, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and everything else is a reflection. And I noticed that when we first started, you were living on your own, having
Yep.
your own place, and now you are cohabitating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was an interesting decision for yourself.
Yeah, well, it was, we always talked about it, but I was always wanting to keep my own space, because I was still holding on to that masculine thing of being like, I take care of myself, I live alone, and this is just, how it works. And, going into that thing where maybe somebody else could, take care of things and provide this space for you. And then you don't have to worry about these things, and just, you know, being okay with that and with that change, because it is, it does feel like you're giving up some independence when you live with someone else. But it's a good thing, like it's you still have independence, you're just in a different space. And I think that when you're sharing space, it's important to define, zones that are yours, and like, and times and things like that, so that you can cohabitate. Because we're in cities where you're not going to be in like a 5-bedroom house. You're usually in like a little apartment, and you're trying to cohabitate. And people need space, and especially women who are into that kind of high achieving thing. Like, we internalize a lot of things, and so you need your space, and you need time to be alone so you can be who you are. And like, figuring out how to do that while communicating effectively so you don't freak out at the other person is something that some like Cindy could help with as well.
No, it's true because I remember when we first discussed this, where you wanted to be ready to give up your place and ready to take the next step of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you found that this is probably the next step to do so because it wasn't making any more sense of living apart because you guys are already spending majority of your time in each other's places.
Yeah,
And it was driving,
absolutely.
and it was he really wanted you to be in his place. And it was a matter of fact of, are you ready to let go of that masculine side and have that next step of a relationship that he can actually care for you when things are challenging so he knows what's going on, because when you're on your own sometimes it's not possible to do that, but you also have that healthy space where you can have time alone and quiet time for yourself, and he's really respectful to do so. And that's beautiful. That's the huge transformation that you had right there. And what about like opportunity of traveling together? What was that like? I know that you were mentioning a little bit earlier that's something that you haven't experienced with your other relationship where a partner kind of does nice things like that.
Yeah. People that take you places.
I
I
want to hear about this, and I want
like we actually traveled together early on, like in our relationship as well, because it just so happened that like we were going to be in like the same area in Europe, and I was with my friends and he was with his friends, and we were like, why don't we just meet up and like see how this goes? And true test of a relationship, can you travel with someone and not want to kill them after? It was really, really great. We realized that it doesn't matter like how much time or how little time, it's just all really valuable and really fun and really special. And so we do quite a lot of weekends away, and going to other cities and going to like a summer cottage and things like that together. And now he had planned this trip and we were hoping to go together, and I just financially couldn't make it work. And so he offered to take me. So we're actually going to Europe again, which I'm really looking forward to. But it was just like the nicest gesture. Like I was really just, even this many years later, just like, oh, this is so lovely that someone is just like looking out for you and wants you to be happy.
Right. And that's so amazing because where you were before, a lot of your partner didn't approve it or didn't accept it
They didn't
or
want to go anywhere. Like I've always really been into traveling, and I think that like I'm really good at, modifying, because I did have a couple of like injuries. So be like, okay, well I can't like jump out of a plane, but we can go do these activities. And I feel like some people just kind of get stuck in their ways, and when you're dealing with men who are just used to being big babies and taken care of all the time and always getting what they want, like it's really hard to compromise. And some people just get stubborn too, and they don't want to do things that somebody else wants to do. It's only about them all the time. And like, even like 2 relationships ago, I was dating somebody who just had quite a lot of like life issues going on, and like he's really, I guess the therapy term is like self-limiting. So everything, there was ways out of everything that was happening to this guy, but like he would just always be looking at like the dark side instead of being optimistic. And just, when you're trying to plan stuff with someone like that, it's really, really difficult, because you'd be like, well, we could do this or we could go here, and you're kind of activating that masculine side again, where you're planning and figuring out where these, this person can come with you for all of these things, and it's still being roadblocked. And fast forward to now, where it's just like totally in sync. There's a really big difference, and it's one of those things that you don't realize it until you're out of it, like how dysfunctional relationships are.
right. And that's really, you went from a dysfunctional relationship into a healthy relationship. And you started off with yourself first because you kind of look within, is like, how do I balance this scale? And who, Cindy, myself will give you that
Mm-hmm.
skill to balance that scale. People probably would be interested in hearing about how do you guys met? Was it love at first sight, or were you guys best friends, or was this just a stranger on the street that you just met, or an online app, or what was that
Mhm.
relationship, how that was started?
We had met through friends, which is so funny because I feel like my previous relationships, and this isn't to say that like online dating's all dysfunctional, but it was through those modalities, and like they were still really, great people at the time. It's just that like the compatibility wasn't the same. And it's been described to me like, like if you're always driving like a crappy car, that's all and it's fine and you're fine with it, and then you drive a really nice one and you're like, oh, that other car is really crappy. It's the same way with relationships. And so you don't really realize. And then I was really careful about spending time working on myself and just finding what I really wanted, because like I didn't necessarily want to be in a relationship again very quickly. And so I just, did stuff that I love doing, and through that met somebody that became a really good friend. And we still, hung out socially, had a big group of friends, and it was really kind of like a safe environment, I guess, where it is somebody that you know of. They're not somebody that you've just met out of nowhere. And like, not that there's anything wrong with that. It just did make things a lot easier. So that, if you're trying to meet like your partner's friends, you actually already know them. And so it's not like you're meeting anybody new. And so things just synced up and they worked really, really well.
Yeah, I noticed that your relationship went from there, and he really wanted you to even like meet his family, and that was pretty
Very
soon.
early on.
Yeah, and you were like, "Is this normal?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, this is normal," because he really, really liked it. Do
Oh
you
yeah,
agree?
we freaked out. It was just so funny because like, I come from a culture where you don't introduce people unless it's like very, very serious. And then I think in the past relationships, it also like things were just delayed, and then like spending time with the partner's family was difficult, just because we just didn't have a lot in common. And then I was really kind of careful about jumping into something again. And then, this did work. The family was great. Even my family like just loves this guy so much. And it makes little details a lot easier, especially if you do have some like dysfunctional family things, or if you have separated family, like, you're visiting one parent's family and then the other parent's family and trying to blend everybody together. It really helps to have a partner that like really understands you, so they don't get scared away by, these family type things, but also wants to get to know people that are in your life.
Yeah, because when we are in a relationship, we actually marry the other people in each other's life. It's not
Mhm.
only the relationship with you and your partner, it's also the other people, like your friends, your family, your external callings and things like that. Like they end up showing up for that. And that was really a healthy relationship because in the very beginning, he's like, I'm really serious with you. I want to the first thing he will rather be introducing is the family. Is like, this is the woman that I'm going to be spending most of my time with and giving to her and, appreciating things. And do you feel like now in your relationship that you have respect because your feelings being cherished first?
Absolutely. It's just a no-brainer, Cindy. And I think that like the hallmark of any good therapist is having you work on your boundaries and your communication. And those are skills you can use with everything. So if you really have that good communication with a partner, then it comes easily with the rest of the people in your life. You can use it with your boss, you can use it with your family, and like, it's establishing that healthy limitation where you're not overtaxing yourself and you're not, spreading yourself really thin so other people can be happy. It's like it's still keeping you at number one, but still like not taking away from other things. It's just a way of like rearranging, how you are, I guess.
Yeah, because you were mentioning about when you don't have boundaries, you start noticing that your body start to feel a little bit sick, if you
Yeah.
want to say that.
Oh yeah. Like it's just like it's an energetic thing, right? It's just like if you're being depleted in all these areas of your life, especially if you work, in a career where you're working with very demanding people, like a lot of, positions that I've been in, I've just had a lot of people that are depending on me for like their well-being and things like that. It's just like it gets really stressful. And then when you have a little bit of extra stress or even a lot of extra stress, especially with, toxic partners who are sucking all the extra energy you have out of you, you're not going to feel great. You're going to feel really, really depleted. And that's, I mean, now I'm pretty convinced that's like nature's way of getting you away from people that aren't good for you anymore. And I also have friends that have been in relationships too where they just suddenly start getting sick all the time, and it's just like it's like the universe's way of getting you away from that person. But it's hard to figure out initially, especially like if you're in a relationship that you think is going really well, and there are dysfunctional things you're just overlooking. And being smart about how you take care of yourself is the number one thing.
Right. And we did a relationship, also a compatibility relationship between
Hmm.
you and your partner. How was that different from any therapist, coach could do it? Because when I sat down with you and I was describing what was going on in the relationship, without even him being there, I understood what you were going through, and it was me most of the time just diagnosing just the
Hmm.
stars, the Vedic astrology star.
That was really, really hilarious and so bang on. Like it was really, really funny because you're just like, well, there really is a science to this. And it's something that's undeniable because like the accuracy is just like it's so bang on. Even with just like timing for stuff and things like that, like I found it kind of like a cheat sheet, I guess, of like understanding certain things. And they're just mostly patterns because obviously people are individuals as well, but like charts don't lie with a lot of things. And I feel like even just having like my own done personally was really, really useful. And I liked it having that as a supplement to what was going on. And it just gives you a little more insight as to, who you are as a being. And then doing the, compatibility is just really interesting because it's just kind of like, oh, okay, here are these roadblocks that are happening energetically. How can we work with them in like the world? So it was interesting. I would definitely do it again. Hopefully I don't have to with somebody else. But,
It's so interesting. You're not the only one who's saying this because the compatibility was a stepping stone for me to insight to see what's going on in a relationship. It's not like all relationship are doom and gloom. It's just a matter of fact of like what's blocking it, what's actually you're feeling, how do we overcome those things. And I was able to do that, just analyzing that and putting just simple things in there because you knew that something has to change. And the writing exercise is one of them. When we were talking about your partner, when we're doing our chart analyzing, did that make you feel like, or even think, the matter of fact of, oh yeah, I get that his behavior. Did you had more empathy towards him, or
yeah.
were you more understanding and how to work with that sort of, what he
That
has
type
gone
of
through?
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it just gives a little more, like, I guess, empathy to the other person, compassion, where you're kind of like, okay, this is, the history of this person. They're also a unique human being that comes with all kinds of different life experiences, and just, really loving the person for that. And I feel like I hope I'm exercising better patience for, someone who really needs to think things through and is really, really detail orientated, and just realizing that this is part of their perfectionism, and like what makes them so great as a person, and why you love them so much is that this is what makes them who they are,
No, that's
and not
me.
trying to change them, right? Like,
Exactly, because you accept him who he is today, and as we do continue on doing personal development within ourselves individually, um, we kind of grow and the relationship grow. And you guys had a great compatibility, and there is opportunity to grow. And I saw that, so it wasn't like doom gloom. If
yeah,
somebody was sitting in the fence right now, there's somebody out there listening to this right now, what would you say?
just to reach out, because like, there's a lot online. I feel like people end up in that like deep dive of being like, well, I can just figure this out myself. There's these free things, and like, I'll just deal with it. But like the one-to-one therapy is it's highly individualized, and like, there's nothing like having someone who's just like there in your corner, really interested in your life, and who wants to help you, achieve the goals that you are deciding. And so I found you really useful for that, and you're really, fun to talk to. And I feel like you're also like very available for when I need you. So I feel like once you are an existing client, like Cindy takes really good care of you. Especially if there's like relationship emergencies where you're like, this person just texted me this and I'm freaking out and we're in a fight. And then she'll be like, I will call you in half an hour. And, really help with these things. Like, there's no harm in trying, and you can always just book a consult, because, most therapists do book consults first, where you can talk about what's going on and make sure that you're a good fit. And, if you are having these relationship issues, you need to go to somebody to help sort it out, because it's obviously still happening, because there are some patterns you need to work on, essentially.
Right. And that's totally true. And, if you're somebody out there listening right now and is, don't know if I'm the right fit or you're in the right situation or ready to, wanting to invest into creating lasting love so that you can have a balanced lifestyle, I'll try to leave it a link down below that, I do give free consultation, just oversee if that's something that fits in your life right now. I make that available to everybody, if you're listening. And, I want to talk about, you know, being with me for, this time period that I have helped you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have noticed in your results? What results did you notice?
It's a feeling. it's a feeling of just being more secure within your life and your relationship. And it's a journey, and you just kind of wake up one day and you're in a completely different place, and it's a lot better for you and your life is better. And that's because you had somebody helping you through these difficult times and helping you to really target what you want and to help you achieve it.
And that is so true because at the end of the day, it's so important to have a balance. It's all not only always about being feminine and quality all the time. It's also balancing your masculine, when to turn it on and when to turn it off, and when
Oh
do
yeah.
you switch role, right? And
Hmm.
it's, do you agree?
Yes,
Not
and
so,
it's just like it's not so black and white. It's just like there is that blend, and like people alternate. It's the yin yang, right? So
right.
like you're always balancing each other, but I feel like what the biggest lesson that I've learned is that, you know, that people need to balance each other. And if you're holding, 80% of all of the work and the other person's only doing 20, then like what are you getting out of it? And so it's just understanding that you can have balance and that things can, be really good for you.
And that's so amazing. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tell your story and your transformation of creating lasting love, because you really did it. You have transformed your life from A to B, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so excited for your next trip, going to Europe with your man, and just having a good time and creating that happiness with him, because you totally deserve it, because you put in the work, because you made that decision to reach out and made the effort. So I really, really am proud of you. So I just want to personally let you know that too.
Thank you. Thanks for being there. Like, I'm just so happy that we met. Like, if I didn't go to that workshop, like we might not have met and worked together. And then, I don't know where I'd even be. So thank
Yeah.
you. I really do hold a space in my heart for you. Thank you so much for everything.
Well, thank you for everything. All right. All right, everybody, thank you so much. And I hope you guys had an opportunity to listen to that and reflect on what she has experienced. And maybe this is part of your stories and some of it you resonate, but don't hesitate to get help. And, if I can help you, I want to be able to do that for you. So please definitely there's a link down below. You can book a time right there and just give a shot. It's free. It's a free consultation just to find out if you need that support. And if you don't have the lasting love or a current partner, no shame to start ahead, because I think that's so important to create that personal development within yourself and have that balance and find out where you stand, because the last thing that you want to be doing is wondering and waiting for that, that guy that's going to show up at your door, but you're really wearing PJs and sitting in your couch and hoping that he's going to come, and it's not always going to come off your dating app. Unfortunately, he's not going to show up at your door, and he's the right guy for you. So I want to make sure that you guys have the right tools and skills, because having the right tools and skill makes a huge difference. Because if you don't have the right tools and skills, you're going to end up in the same pattern how many women out there. So don't be alone, don't be ashamed. I'm here to help, and I'm excited to hear from you. All right, bye now, everyone.